Welcome back, dreamers and night travelers, to another evening inside Dusk and Dreams. And if this is your first time joining us, a warm hello. I'm Yarrow, your guide through these explorations of science, story, and the mysteries of the night. Tonight, we step into something a little different. Imagine the night as a quiet laboratory, not the sterile kind, with fluorescent lights and loud pings, tings, and whiz-bangs, but one built of candle glow and soft background bubbling baths. Perhaps a wafting scent of cedar and the hush of your own breath. This is the Nighttime Lab, where you're both scientist and subject, and the goal of tonight's show isn't a perfect result. It's simply better rest. So, wrap yourself in a blanket, sip whatever night drink you've got at your side, and let's see what happens when we bring curiosity into the bedroom. No, not that kind of experiment. No, hey, I won't judge if that's what you've got going on. But here on Dusk and Dreams, we'll be exploring the simple tweaks, old and new, that can shift the way our minds and bodies move into sleep. So let's put on our invisible lab coats, or snuggle in under a soft throw, pour a little curiosity into the beakers, and see what happens when science and spiritual meet in the night. First, though, why even experiment about rest? Well, humans are tinkerers by nature, me especially, and I see every night as an opportunity. You see, the brain is always listening, always adjusting, always learning what signals mean safe to sleep. Experimentation is simply play with intention. It's the same spirit that guided our ancestors when they burned herbs at dusk, left bowls of milk by the door to invite dreams, or incubated visions in temples of healing. They didn't have the same neuroscience language we have today, but they were experimenting, testing what soothed, what opened the mind, what made the body give in to night. Yes, long before we had words like parasympathetic nervous system or REM cycles, ancient people were experimenting too. The Greeks practiced dream incubation, sleeping in temples to receive visions. Egyptian healers used blue lotus flowers to ease the mind before bed. In Ayurveda, certain spices and herbs were mixed, not just for flavor, but for their effect on the nervous system. These weren't random traditions. They were data gathering, rituals repeated, because they seemed to work, even if the language of why didn't exist yet. And here we are, thousands of years later, still curious, still adjusting, still chasing that elusive, perfect night's rest. The brain actually likes this, and modern neuroscience shows that curiosity fires up the dopamine system, the same reward pathways tied to motivation and learning. That little spark of, what if I try this tonight, can make us more attentive, more aware of how our body responds. And sometimes, that awareness alone can shift our state into something calmer. That's why we experiment with rest. Not because there's one perfect formula, but because the process itself, trying, noticing, adjusting, keeps us engaged with our own well-being. If you've ever tried turning your pillow to the cooler side, lighting incense, or even whispering a mantra before bed, congratulations, you've been a nighttime scientist too. And so have I. So tonight isn't just about theories. It's about the experiments some of you, and several of my own mentoring clients have already tried. Real attempts, real nights, real results. Let's walk through a few and see what those experiments look like in practice. Perhaps some might strike a chord and you'll want to try them in your own world. No pressure, no pass or fail trials, just you, your notebook of the night, and a little curiosity. All right, time to crack open the lab journal. First up, journaling experiments. The simplest was just a notebook by the bed. First, I tried 3 variations of the 3-dom method, a spin on freeing your mind of things by ridding it of 3 things. The 3-word closeout, just jotting 3 words that summed up the day. The 3 worries dump, naming the big 3 looping thoughts and giving them a curfew until morning. And the 3 gratitudes, closing the day with small acknowledgements, no matter how trivial. First, the easiest, 3 words, that's it. 3 words to capture the flavor of the day. No full sentences, no perfection. Exhausted, coffee, relief. I'd wake up the next morning and realize those tiny markers held the whole story. Other nights it was 3 worries. I'd write them down like I was handing them to a valet, saying, "Here, you deal with this while I sleep." And the funny thing is, the brain often did. The next morning, 1 or 2 of those worries actually felt smaller, solvable. From there, I moved into what I started calling memory offloading. This is where you are putting something, words, shapes, even a cartoon version of your boss or other thing, onto paper, so the hippocampus doesn't feel the need to replay it all night. Of all the journaling activities, memory offloading felt the strangest at first, but also the most powerful. Here's the science behind this idea. Our hippocampus, the brain's memory librarian, hates leaving things unfiled. If it thinks something hasn't been captured, it'll replay it on loop, whispering reminders just as you're trying to sleep. By simply and quickly, and with a bit of fun thrown in, drawing it down on paper, you've offloaded this thought prior to going to bed and can more easily drift off for a full night's slumber. The experiment I used was simple. Instead of writing full sentences or a neat journal entry, I just gave my brain's main problem child a placeholder for the day, a word, a quick sketch, even once, a goofy cartoon of myself frowning with steam lines drawn above my head. The message to my brain was, "See, it's stored. You don't have to keep it running in the projector." And it worked. The hippocampus relaxes once it knows there's a copy on paper. Neuroscientists call this externalization, taking mental load out of working memory and putting it into the environment. Fun fact, ancient cultures did it too. Dream tablets in Mesopotamia, or carving anxieties into wood or stone. Early humans were already hacking the hippocampus before we even had a name for it. One of my clients followed this technique as well, and he told me that he drew a tiny suitcase before bed, just a rectangle with a handle, and inside it, scribbled the words, "Meeting tomorrow." That was enough. His brain treated it like luggage already packed, and then slept without dreaming of PowerPoint slides all night. My own favorite journaling style, though, sketching little thought bubbles with single words, like comics left unfinished. It tricked my brain into thinking the story was captured and could be picked up in the morning, which, honestly, is what sleep needs most, for us to put the pen down on the day's draft. The science here is fascinating. When we externalize a thought, we reduce rumination, It's like the hippocampus gets to file it into the already handled drawer. That simple act lowers nighttime rehearsal loops. I have another client, though, that swears by the inverted gratitude method, or the release list, as I've called it before. This is where instead of what you're thankful for, you write down what you release. For example, I release today's mistakes. I release the tension in my shoulders. That little ritual can feel like emptying a pocket of stones before sleep. This client has told me that writing down things they were relieved to let go of worked better than listing what they were thankful for. They used the statement, unpacking baggage before boarding the sleep train. I love that description, don't you? Let's move into the environment experiments. These were some of the most surprising, because they seemed obvious to me at first. I mean, everyone talks about this stuff these days, so I went into them with a bit of bias towards certain expected results. But, come to find out, the details mattered. First, light. I tested 3 setups. I've tried out a blue light filter on my phone called Flux. It gradually shifted the screen into amber tones as evening set in. On a few other nights, I swapped bedside bulbs for Philips Hue smart bulbs, programmed to fade from soft white to candlelight orange at 9:30 p.m. And then I used just my blackout curtains. The result? The filter helped, but the smart bulbs worked better. When the room looked like sunset, my body followed. Blackout curtains made mornings groggier if I didn't also have the sunrise morning lamp, so I learned. The right cue isn't darkness alone. It's the timing of dimming and lighting. Next, sound. I lined up white, pink, and brown noise tracks. White noise, like static, kept me edgy, almost like I was waiting for something to happen. Pink noise, softer, more balanced, was gentler. But brown noise was the winner, deep and rumbling like distant thunder. One listener wrote in, saying they looped a brown noise YouTube track called Thunder in a Canyon and slept straight through for the first time in weeks. For me, pink noise felt like velvet, but brown noise and nature sounds of thunderstorms, rain, and ocean waves are like being wrapped in earth. Simply can't be beat for full, restful sleep. Now on to scent. I didn't stop at lavender, that normal go-to that most everyone mentions these days. One week I used cedarwood oil on a cotton pad tucked inside my pillowcase. Earthy, grounding, like the floor of a forest. Another week, neroli oil, bright and citrusy, almost playful. A listener had shared that they lit a stick of sandalwood incense every night for 7 days, and by night 3, just smelling the box made them yawn. That's conditioning at work. Your brain pairs the scent with sleep, like a secret password. But for me, cedarwood became the clearest anchor. Neroli kept me cheerful, but actually ended up too awake with its brighter tones. And lastly, temperature. I tested the single shift method, meaning shifting one part of your body to a secondary temperature. As I'm one who sleeps hot, always have, one night I stuck just my right foot out from under the blanket and kept it freely on top. Then, taking a towel that had been chilled in the fridge for a few hours and tucked it at the end of the bed so that both feet were on it. This proved strangely effective, cooling the body enough to doze faster. Another time, I used a chili pad mattress topper to drop the bed temperature by 2 degrees. That night, I hit deep sleep faster but woke shivering at 3 a.m. The most consistent trick? A warm shower before bed, then stepping into a cool bedroom set to 67 degrees Fahrenheit, as the ambient temp was cool, but I could still cuddle up under my covers. This warm to cool shift cues the body's natural sleep drop too, so ties in with our biological rhythms. One of my clients swears by microwaving a rice-filled heating pad, placing it in the crook of the stomach, she's a side sleeper, while leaving the window cracked open. Warm core, cool extremities. She said it felt like the body exhaled into sleep. What these experiments taught me is that small changes, tested deliberately, reveal patterns. All in all, for me, amber light, brown noise, cedar wood, and a warm shower into cool air became the winning lab combo. Your mix may be different, but the principle holds. Every sense can be trained into a sleep signal. Next, let's get into some of my tech experiments, and let me tell you, these were the ones where I've learned just how much a gadget can either help or completely hamper a good night's sleep. First, I tried Sleep Cycle. It listens for your movements and snores, then tries to wake you up at the lightest part of your sleep within a 30-minute window. On night 1, I woke up gentler, almost like I drifted to the surface instead of being yanked. But by night 5, I caught myself obsessively checking the graphs. Deep sleep hours, restlessness scores, and whether or not I actually snored. It was like doom scrolling my own brain waves. After our tech episode a few shows back, I had a listener write in saying the same. Helpful for awareness, but stressful when the app told them they'd had a poor night, even though they felt fine. Lesson. Useful as a mirror, but don't let the mirror become a judge. I've also tested a Hatch Restore smart lamp that mimics sunrise. Instead of an alarm tone, it glows from deep red to warm yellow over half an hour. At first, it felt gimmicky, but by day 3, I was waking before the sound kicked in, almost like my body learned the cue. A listener with a lofty clock reported the same. They said it tricked their brain into thinking mornings weren't an ambush. The lamp didn't just change waking, it changed falling asleep patterns too. Setting it to fade down like sunset became part of the ritual. Very helpful indeed. Wearables too are popular, so had to check those out. I wore an Oura ring for 2 weeks, and have tried the Samsung ring. They track various biofeedback like temperature, heart rate variability, and sleep stages. The rings are shockingly accurate in showing when I'd had wine versus herbal tea. But here's the catch. If it told me I'd had poor readiness, I carried that label into the day like a heavy backpack. And neither were very comfortable for me to sleep with. I have a habit of putting my hand under my cheek, and several times would wake up with a slight bruising feeling where the ring would push against my face. I have several friends and colleagues that have mentioned using an Apple Watch in similar fashion. One recently said she eventually stopped checking sleep scores altogether because she noticed she was sleeping worse on nights she planned to perform for the watch. The tech became a tiny tyrant. The takeaway? Tech can absolutely nudge sleep, especially lamps for rhythm and rings for patterns. But too much data can hijack the mind. In the lab notebook, I marked this one, use tech as a tool, not a scorecard. But in the realm of tech, there was still more to try. And from there, I started testing out a couple of the stranger toys that are starting to hit the market. Because no lab is complete without pushing the edges. First, the Somnox weighted sleep robot. This one looked like a plush cushion crossed with a beanbag. You hug it, and it gently rises and falls, simulating slow breathing. The idea, your body subconsciously matches its rhythm. I gave it a whirl. At first, it felt ridiculous, like spooning a soft, wheezing potato. But 5 minutes in, I noticed my breath syncing up without trying. However, I have to say it was just too uncanny, like cuddling a sleepy cyborg, and I ended up returning it. Next, EEG headbands. I tried the Muse S, which claims to detect brainwave shifts and play sounds to nudge you deeper into sleep. The soundscape was rainforest at first, then shifted to gentle winds when I started tossing. Cool in theory, but the headband was snug, and halfway through the night I ripped it off like it was a crown of thorns. I've also tried out the Dream brand headband, but it too was still not very comfortable and went back. The conclusion: science grade, but not comfort grade. Yet. And then there was the part of the lab where science met sound magic. Binaural beats. 2 slightly different tones, one in each ear, tricking your brain into hearing a phantom third beat. Depending on the gap between the tones, your brain may sync to frequencies linked with relaxation, focus, or even dreamlike states. My first test was an app called Brain.fm using alpha wave settings, about 10 hertz, often tied to calm alertness. I lay back, earbuds in, and let the low hum wash over me. After 10 minutes, I wasn't exactly asleep, but I felt like my thoughts had dropped a gear, slowed, softened. It was like being lowered into a warm bath, where at first I wanted to wash, but then my brain stopped splashing around and I just soaked. Next, theta beats, around 5 hertz. I used mynoise.net, a site where you can tweak frequencies. I paired it with rain sounds layered over the tones. The result? Weirdly effective. I slid into that half-awake, half-dream place where images flicker. It felt like boarding a train that never left the station. Now, I have to admit, I didn't fall asleep readily here, but I did daydream of sorts while listening, catching fragments of stories I've not consciously written. The deepest test, delta beats, 1 to 4 hertz, designed to mimic slow wave sleep. I tried an 8-hour YouTube track with gentle delta pulses woven into ocean waves. Full honesty, I woke up at 3 a.m. with my earbuds halfway out and my dog snoring louder than ever. But the part I did hear was heavy, grounding. I found a lot of commentary on delta beats and several mentioning of having used delta tracks during a bout of insomnia with descriptions like it as a gravity blanket for my brain. And here's where it gets mystical. The earliest shamans used drum circles at about 4 beats per second, the same rhythm as theta waves. Chanting, drumming, dancing around the fire, ancient binaural beats, no earbuds required, which makes you wonder, maybe this isn't new tech at all. Maybe it's just us remembering an older pattern. One oddball side effect, though. With longer sessions, I sometimes got a slight buzzing feeling in the jaw and temples. Harmless, but a little weird. Like my brain knew it was being tuned. A spookier take said, theta beats gave them dreams of old chanting in a language they didn't know. It spooked them enough to stop. Look, I'll be honest, I'm always trying new things out. It's a blessing and a curse having a curious mind that never stops wanting to learn something new. So these are just some of the experiments I've tested, tweaked, and tried over the years. But at the end of the day, the real lab is yours. Try 1 or 2 this week. Don't aim for perfect results. Just notice what changes. Curiosity is the fuel here. Every little experiment is your way of listening in on your body's secret language. And here's the golden thread in all this. This curiosity isn't new. We've been experimenting with night for as long as humans have watched the stars. Ancient cultures had their own nighttime labs, even if they didn't call them that. In temples, by rivers, under open skies, they tested herbs, chants, dreams, and rituals, searching for the same thing we are tonight: rest, insight, a way to harmonize with the dark. So in this next part, we'll step back in time, looking at a few of those ancient experiments and how they echo in modern practice today. In ancient Greece, seekers would travel to temples of Asclepius, the god of healing. They would fast, bathe, and lie down on stone floors, hoping to dream a cure or receive divine instruction. Priests recorded these dreams, studying patterns as though they were data points. And isn't that familiar? Modern lucid dreaming practices are a new version of this, setting an intention before bed, rehearsing the dream you want to enter, even using reality checks to trigger awareness inside it. My own experiments here were surprisingly practical. When I asked my dreams to help solve a problem, I sometimes woke up with ideas that hadn't surfaced in daylight. Not magic, just the subconscious rearranging, like the brain's own whiteboard. And then there is the connection with warm drink and scent. Across India, Ayurveda has guided rest for thousands of years with warming teas, cinnamon, nutmeg, cardamom, sometimes turmeric. The science now tells us that warm liquids raise core temperature slightly, then trigger a gentle drop that cues sleep. Add in the ritual, the slowness of making and sipping, and you've set a bedtime marker. I tested this with a spiced golden milk one week and chamomile the next. Both worked, but in different ways. The spiced drink made my dreams vivid, almost cinematic. The chamomile, softer, like drifting into fog. A friend of mine uses a cinnamon stick stirred into milk as their ritual, and just the scent tells their body it's time to rest. That's Pavlov for sleep, alive and well. Another ancient practice, staring at flame. In yogic routine, this was called tritaka, a way to still the mind by focusing on the flicker. In Rome, Egyptians and Babylonians charted moon cycles, believing lunar light shifted emotions and dreams. Science today points us to circadian rhythm entrainment, light cues that reset the body's clock. I tried this with a beeswax candle, 10 minutes of just watching the flame before bed. My thoughts slowed. My breath matched the flicker. Another night, I sat with moonlight pouring through the window instead of a lamp. The glow was enough to quiet me, but I noticed my dreams were lighter, more restless, as if the body was caught between wake and rest. Ancient mystery, modern neuroscience, both whispering the same truth. Light shapes the night. So, whether it's dream incubation, spiced teas, or flame gazing, these experiments are echoes, old rituals, new language, and maybe that's the point. The lab of the night has always been here. We're just continuing the lineage. So, we've toured some of my lab bench tonight, journals and breathing, apps and incense, teas and moonlight. But what about yours? This week or next, I'd encourage you to treat your nights as an experiment. Nothing heavy, nothing pressured. Just gentle curiosity. At the end of the day, these little tests aren't about rules, they're invitations. Invitations to notice how your body responds. The night lab doesn't end when this episode does. It begins the moment you close your eyes each night after trying out a new ritual. Here's how to get started. Pick one or two of these practices and try them at least 3 nights in a row. If you want a full written list, feel free to comment below or connect with me on breakgrid.com for a complete PDF of tonight's tips and recipes. Perhaps try out one of the 3-dumb methods, or maybe the cedar wood and wrapping your feet with cool towels for a micro temperature shift plus scent trigger night. Or maybe it's brewing cinnamon tea and seeing what your dreams do with it. Keep a night lab log, just 1 or 2 notes about the results. Did you fall asleep faster? Did your dreams feel different? Was your waking calmer, sharper, softer? Don't worry about perfection. This is just about tracing to see what works best for you. And if you miss a night, well, even that's data. The point isn't success. The point is listening to the body's quiet language and hearing the soft, whispered breath of result. And speaking of breath, the final experiments were ones that don't need a journal, an app, or even a scent, just lungs, time, and a willingness to try. Breathwork. The first was box breathing. This is where you breathe in for 4, hold 4, out 4, hold 4. Simple, square, repeat. Navy SEALs are known to use it for stress regulation. When I tried it just before bed, I noticed less of the dreamy float I get from the 4-7-8 method, which we'll go over next. But more of a quiet alertness resulted. Perfect for those who want calm without getting too drowsy. I've heard from others that have used this method after a stressful day, and they've said they didn't fall asleep faster either. But their racing thoughts do slow enough to stay put. Another is the 4-7-8 method. Breathe in through the nose for 4 counts. Hold for 7, exhale through the mouth for 8. For bedtime, I tested this lying flat, lights dim, hands resting lightly on my stomach so I could feel each breath expand. By the 4th cycle, my pulse slows, and it feels like my rib cage has melted into the mattress. This is one of my favored breathing and meditation techniques, but can take some getting used to. I'll be honest, the first few nights I'd tried it, I found 4-7-8 a little suffocating, like I couldn't quite stretch the exhale correctly. But after a week, it clicked, and suddenly, my heart rate dropped like a stone each time I practiced it. Both techniques activate the parasympathetic nervous system, the body's natural brake pedal. By elongating the exhale, you coax the vagus nerve to slow the heart, shift blood pressure, and send the signal. We're safe now. Brain scans even show patterns similar to meditation appearing within minutes. If you're listening somewhere safe, you can test this one with me right now. We'll do 1 round of the 4-7-8 method just to see how it feels. Ready? Wherever you are, settle in. If you're walking, let your pace slow. If you're lying down, let your shoulders sink. Close your eyes if it's safe. Inhale gently through your nose for 4 seconds. hold for 7. Exhale slowly through the mouth for 8. Notice that pause after the breath leaves, like the body is grateful for the empty space. Take another cycle if you wish. And imagine yourself in a quiet observatory at night. The room is dark, but the dome above you opens to reveal the sky. The stars are chalk on a great blackboard. With every breath, one of them flares a little brighter, as if you're sketching with light. This is your lab. This is your notebook. Now take a moment and notice how your body feels. Feel the chest rise, the pause, the letting go after each breath cycle. Notice the silence that follows. That's your first entry in your Blackboard lab book with your star made chalk. And when you're ready, gently let the star fade back into the night sky. Bring your awareness to the weight of your body, the surface beneath you. Feel your hands relax, the tips of your fingers, the sound around you. When you open your eyes, the night will still be here. Your breathing will be easy with a body ready for rest. Even a single cycle can feel like a reset button. And with practice, your body begins to expect sleep to follow. It's been a privilege to guide you through another night on Dusk and Dreams. If this podcast helps you find peace, spark creativity, or simply offers a moment of captivating escape, please consider following or subscribing wherever you listen. Your support helps us build this community of night-minded souls. We're available on all major podcast platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Amazon, as well as many others. To learn more about the show or connect with me and the Dragons Dusk and Dreams team, visit our website at breakgrid.com or follow at Yarrow Diamond on Instagram. This week, play with rest, be the scientist and the dreamer. And if you try something that shifts your nights, share it with me. I'd love to hear your results. And Friday, we're stepping out of the lab and into the legends, ghost lights, mysterious glows that haunt roads, swamps, and skies. Some explained, some never. It's a story night, and I think you'll feel the shiver. And next Tuesday, we're going to explore night rituals across cultures. We'll look at how the world greets and guards the night in both modern day and ancient societies. But for now, close the notebook, dim the lights, and let your own experiment begin. Wishing you all a good night. May you sleep well, dream luminous, listen with an open mind and heart, and remember, the night listens back.